Okay, hello, this is Bruce Horton. I'm doing my reflection of my master schedule assignment. Um the master schedule, I learned that it kind of makes the school go round. It has a way of making sure that kids are in the right classes and that teachers have the right students, especially the ones that they want, especially like for GT students, or if it's if they just want to have a regular class. And then the master schedule also provides a way that we know who has the gym, and who we know who has certain aspects of equipment, not necessarily the computers and stuff, but just who can have the library at certain times. And the master schedule from one of my assistant principals have said is for the kids. It's mainly to help the kids, and mainly to help make sure the kids are in the right space and right class that they need to be in. And the master schedule, if it's not done right, like Mr. Skidmore said, that uh, it can be terrible. Especially like the story that he told, that when he was going to a high school, and that the master schedule was supposed to be done, but it wasn't done. And then it was like 2 weeks before school, and they had to try to make it work and have it ready, because students want their schedules when they getting ready for school. And the master schedule takes a lot of man hours. I think he said approximately about 200 hours to even get the master schedule done. So I learned a lot about the master schedule. I knew it was very rigorous from just different things that I heard, but it's a lot that goes into it that helps the school go, sure the school is functioning, and making sure everybody's in the right place. Um, the two principals that were involved was Craig Harmon and uh, Steve Skidmore, but Craig was telling me that also the other two assistant principals, Mrs. Scott and Mr. Delvin Sims, is also going to be a part of the master schedule. The criteria of the design, uh, they put the students' names in the master schedule to see where they fit in, and see if they can put them into the right classes, because students pick the classes that they want to be in, so they make sure that they are putting them into the right classes, into the right situation with the right teacher. Um, it affects instruction, because if you don't put the right student in the right class, that it could be a disaster for the student, and it could be a disaster for the teacher if they not into the right class that they picked, in the right class that they should be in. It kind of does determine class sizes for instructional purposes, but for like my class, elective class, it kind of varies, but for most part it kind of does affect the class sizes. Um, what staff personnel are needed for the classes. The it just They need the person that's going to do the master schedule, and for all of them to work together. And apparently, like Craig said, that they have a new system to where they can just kind of press a button, and then it just kind of just starts shuffling, and then from there they shuffle and put students in the class. That's pretty much the basic step by step of how they're doing it now than how they've done it in the past. We've upgraded our system in our district to where that they can just kind of push a button, and then it kind of just shuffles students from class to class, and from the classes that they've picked. What factors determine the class? I think it's more so when we have our building menus at the end of the year. Everybody knows where everybody's trying to go. When we have our building meetings, who's assigned to what area of the school. I don't think that has much to do with the master schedule, but it does. It provides a blueprint at the end of the year, so we know who's going to be where at what time, whether it's in the classroom, gyms, or library. So but for the most part, the master schedule has nothing to do with that, especially like booking library time. And it's the focus primarily maximize. Yes, it maximizes student learning because it's all about the student. It's not about what the teachers want. It's more so what's best for the student, and that's what we're gonna do. We're always gonna make sure uh whatever we do is best for the student. What were the significant contributions to those involved and consulted? Um, like Craig said, he's been doing it for, I think this is his first year or his working on his second year doing it. But everybody has a certain part that they have to do as far as in the master schedule. But I think Mr. Skidmore sees an overview of everything into the master schedule and making sure everything is right. Because for the most part, from what I understand, he does most of the work as far as putting everybody in a certain situation and making sure that they're in the right class. How does the school policy and practices protect the quality of instruction and student learning? It makes sure that everybody, like I keep saying, is in the right place and that they're in the right educational spot as far as the classroom, whether they need to be in higher learning or like he said, making sure that the master schedule aligns with a student that's going way to the high school to take pre-algebra and stuff like that. So that's how and how is teacher planning allocated to ensure colleagues collaborate? So the master schedule doesn't have much to do with that, but we do set aside well, it kind of does. It set aside PLC time, so especially for the core teachers, not so much for electives, but for the core teachers to make sure they all have the same off period, to make sure that they all have the same off period on our set days, because we do red and green days, to make sure they have instructional time so they can plan for their classes and everybody's on the same page. Um, what is surprising information? I pretty much knew that it was rigorous, but I didn't know that it surprised me how many man hours. I knew it took like I think it was like 5 weeks towards the end of school when they really start getting into it, but I didn't know it took like 200 hours, and that I didn't know that it was such a vital part in making sure that the school went round and make sure that everything is functioning into the right direction. How will this experience transform your practice in school? To make sure I can have input and some way get involved in making sure that it's an easier process and making sure that hopefully it don't take as many man hours, like as Craig Harvin said, that hopefully that they can cut those man hours down, especially with so many of them working on it, but help contribute in some type of way to make it an easier process. Keep it essential, but that's what I learned, and that I learned a lot dealing with the master schedule, and I see that it takes a lot to make sure everything is going right and making sure everybody's in the right spot. And sometimes, like electronics, they don't work the way they're supposed to, so you have to catch it with your catch it, and then sometimes you do, and hopefully it makes everything work right. And but it was a great experience and a lot of information that I learned from both Craig and Steve. Thank you.